Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. I'm making a video today that is inspired in part by one of my viewers who said, can you tell us, what are the basic things we should look at when we're trying to address a vintage sewing machine? And that can have one of two different approaches. One of those is, how do you go about starting the restoration or the overhaul of a machine? And I've talked about that in other videos about how I go about that in terms of the order. I typically work in sections at a time. And I've done that on many videos. However, this gave me the idea that when you buy a sewing machine that belongs to someone else, you really have to inspect it. You try your best to inspect it when you're looking at it. But, it depends on, if you're not a neighbor or somebody that the owner knows, you're a stranger, and, maybe if they're coming to show it to you or you're going to look at it, very often it will either be on their porch or in a garage. People are not always interested in, having you come in. Now, when I have people look at machines that I offer that are ready for a new owner, I want them to actually sit down and use the machine. Sometimes they don't even insist on it, but I like that they do that. But for purchasing, people list these things online, and they're just basically wanting to get rid of it, and they're not really interested. They may be friendly. I'm not saying that they're unfriendly, but you're in a limited time window. Okay. Now, when I saw this machine listed, do any of you know what this machine is? If you know your vintage Singers well enough, okay, and you can see the extended width here, it's wider than a lot of Singer straight stitch sewing machines from the period, and it has its tension dials here on the left. This is a Singer 201, and this machine falls under my list of my favorite machines, and not just my favorite machines, but the favorite machines that many people have. And the fact that it's one of my favorite machines, it'll come under that series in terms of the playlist, but I'm also going to put it under the purchasing series and maybe the troubleshooting series because, I looked at this machine and I checked a few things. And I'm going to share with you what the owner told me and why it's important to pay attention to what the owner says, but also know, what does the owner actually know about the machine? Occasionally, you might be fortunate to get a vintage sewing machine from someone who sews, someone who's been using it, and maybe maybe they're like some of you, they collect lots of machines and they want to pare down the herd, as they say. They want to reduce their inventory. That's a different situation. They may even be able to demonstrate it for you and show you how it runs. Well, when you're buying a machine from most of the people who sell them, you're not getting that option. Now, they might say, hey, it runs, okay? But it doesn't matter if it's one of the most, there are many vintage sewing machines, models and brands that people love. In fact, I've found people who are fans of every brand and every model I've ever restored. There are people who absolutely love Singers, and the Singer 201 has a big following. And many of you, if you don't know this by now, you will. And I've talked about the 201 and how incredible it is in many of my videos. And you can see that if you go into the search bar under my channel and click on videos and just search Singer 201, you'll find quite a few. Or you can look under the Singer playlist. However, I want to talk about this machine in terms of the experience, okay? I didn't record this because most people don't expect a stranger to walk up and record them. That's not nice, and that's not acceptable. But I wanted to, I'm going to recount my experience in buying this machine. And if you buy a machine like this, and you might, think about how much you would pay for it. And there's a lot of variables here, and we're going to look at them, okay? I'm going to go over with you guys. Oh, you know what? I just realized this should also go in to how much should you pay for a sewing machine. It should go into that playlist too. Why not? Okay, so I saw the machine listed and I told the person I was interested. And they said, okay, when can you come? Someone else has asked about it. They want to know information. And I'm not surprised at all. And I said, sure, I'm pretty flexible. So I managed to go. I was about 20 something minutes away, and less than a half an hour, not bad. And I went, and I knew it was a 201. I already knew that. And I knew it was not a potted motor 201 because I could see the shape in the back told me it was a mounted motor, one of the B class, or B as in Bravo class motors that Singer used for decades. And I was very, anytime I can find a 201, I'm interested. Sometimes they're overpriced, sometimes they're underpriced, but this is how it went. So I went to look at it. The owner had it in their garage, and that's pretty common. I don't know how long it was sitting there, but it may not have been kept there. It may have been kept indoors somewhere. And the owner said they didn't know much about it other than I believe it belonged to a family member. So I'm getting it from the family of someone who is probably passed on. That's not unusual when you're looking at machines this old. So I said, oh, okay. And so what did I do? The first thing I did, I came over to turn the hand wheel, right? And if you guys notice, watch the needle clamp, you can see it moving. It moves extremely stiffly. This is not a machine you just turn and the needle goes up and down. The owner of the machine said, yeah, it works. The needle's moving up and down. Now, the owner has, I believe the owner has probably never touched or used a sewing machine. So I don't, could the person be trying to, to embellish the condition? Maybe. But I think a lot of times, most in my own experience, you can tell me if your experience is different. I would love to hear that down there in the comments. Honestly, the vast majority of people I have purchased sewing machines from over the years, and hopefully now with your help and the donations there, buy me a coffee. If you donate to my channel, you can help me buy more of these machines to get them rescued. So most of the people that I get machines from, they're honest. They're just sometimes mistaken, okay? Just because they're honest doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. And it's just because, they don't know anything about sewing machines, but it's old and they think, okay, maybe it has some value. And so this is very stiff. So there is no way I'm not plugging this in. Now, there was an outlet there at the house and it was also really cold, right? Because we're in winter when I got this. And so, but knowing how stiff this is, I would never have plugged this in. No way, no how, because I don't want to damage the machine. That's a really unpleasant way to stress your machine when it has been sitting. This machine is still in hibernation, folks. It is not anywhere close to being awake. But it's a 201, and it's hard for me to turn them away unless they're silly priced, and sometimes they are. All right, so this, well, hey guys, I miss things at times. Let's look at this for a moment. Let's look at this. We'll discover it together. I'm not kidding you. Watch. I'm going to zoom in here. I went to turn the knurled nut that is on the end of the tension assembly. Look at that. Do you guys see anything wrong with that? I'll give it a little angle here. It's on backwards. Okay, so somebody, and I don't think it's the original owner. I think the original owner knew how to sew and probably used this machine and enjoyed it. At some point, somebody decided to investigate it. Let's turn that back around. I'm going to be taking the whole thing apart to overhaul. It's due, but oh no. Uh-oh. So I'm going to put this back on for now. Just to have it there. Now, I also noticed that my check spring is, I'm going to have to make sure that that's in the right position. At least I have a check spring. That's a good thing. You can get replacements for those, by the way. Now, we're not done. No. We're just beginning to look at things. Okay, so let's lift up, and it moves. The pressure bar moves. It's sluggish and slow. It's still sleepy. What about this? This is, of course, is our stitch length adjustment. Why did I want to lift this first? Because I prefer not to grind the feed dogs on the bottom of the sewing foot. Don't do that. I see people demonstrating, hey, this sewing machine runs, and they'll turn it on and they'll hit the speed controller and they'll just run the feed dogs and with the foot down and just don't do that. Okay, so let's look over here. Oh, that's pretty stiff now. If you look at the feed dogs, it's going to be hard to see, but I can see that they're moving. So that mechanism is working, but again, I'm not going to just play with it up and down because it's asleep. It needs TLC. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to show you something I saw. It wasn't hard to see, but I bought it anyway. But you need to know that this can happen. Okay? Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, let's come over here. So I see I have my needle clamp. I have the thread guide there, the thread guide here. I have thread guide. And then, of course, my take-up arm. So my thread guides seem to look okay. I have this plate up here that is at the base of the spool pin. Sometimes that plate's missing. It's there. That's nice to see. In terms of the paint, we've got some nicks. That's not unusual. Some of this is just dirt and filth. My decals along the front here, a little bit of wear, but honestly pretty good. Not terrible. And I see some chips along the edge here, but they look like they were touched up at some point. Maybe the chips were touched up. I don't know who did that, but all right, folks. Now I want you to look at something else. Something looks off with the base. I knew that the base, I have seen so many Singer bases in my time of working on machines. I thought it fits. I mean, it's seated, but this doesn't look right. Something is not quite right about this. But I bought it anyway. Okay. What I want all of you to note here is that if you were the one buying this, you want to know before you agree on a price, what is a sewing machine worth? A lot of it has to do with conditioning. Are you going to pay someone like myself, and there are others like me who do sewing machine restorations, or are you going to do it yourself? It's very time consuming. It is, you need to pay the person for their time and their expertise, or you need to do it yourself. And your time is, of course, worth just as much as someone like myself. All right, guys. Okay, let's take a look. I've got great daylight, but I'm going to use my flashlight to zoom in. There's a couple of chips here. I'm not worried about the paint chips. I can touch that up, and that's not a big deal. Now, look there. This is the original plug. I'm going to zoom in for you. Okay. You guys see that? The outer coating of the cord. And by the way, this is unplugged. Do not have your machine plugged in when you do this. No. All right, you see that? Now, what is inside of that cover, that jacket, if I'm using the right term? Those of you who are electricians, please tell me what I should be calling this. Because inside of here are two wires, right? It's a double, they call them double lead or double wire cord. That's not unusual, just like a lamp cord. But those insides have a covering of their own. And the deal with this is, if those coverings crumble or break and those wires crossed, you've heard that expression, do you have your wires crossed? You never want to have your wires crossed. That's an electrical disaster. But it gets better. Okay. I didn't see this, but I'm not bothered by it because I'm going to replace that anyway. I have a very old and tired belt. Look at that. Okay. It's really tired, guys. Look at that. It's let's see, it might actually be easier to see with the daylight. Now, you can tell this is going to need a new belt. One of the things I like showing all of you when I go through my process for evaluating a machine if I want to restore it, a lot of the things that I showcase to you are fairly common. A lot of times, if they haven't been used in years, yeah, you have dry rotted belts, you have cords that need to be replaced. But remember, it's a vintage Singer, and as I've told all of you, there's a reason it's my favorite brand to restore. It may not be my favorite brand to sew. Well, I don't even sew. Those of you who love Singers, you may love other brands. It's okay. Some of the things that I see here, I expect, and they're not particularly hard or expensive to repair. And if you really want a Singer 201, or in my case, I want to save a Singer 201 for someone else, it's not a big deal. But you want to know about it before you just go and try to use it. Okay, now, here's my foot pedal, button style Singer foot pedal. Classic, it's iconic all to itself. And it's dirty and dusty. Now, I'm shaking it. Now you hear a little click click. That clicking is actually, that clicking is the sound of the button, because the button the button is engaged here. It's not loose, but it's designed to have some flex for whatever reason. That's how it was designed, right? But usually if you, and this is, by the way, shaking is not the only way to test this. Okay, I'm going to be opening up this foot pedal to inspect it. I want to make sure that the porcelain has no cracks or it's not broken. And I do this with all of my machines. All right, well, now let's take a look at the cord. Now, cords are strange things. The Singer cords of this era have two coated wires, but then they have another covering or jacket that goes over the both of them to hold them together. That's how they did it. Now, you might look at this cord and say to yourself, hey, it flexes, right? Hey, I can bend it, sort of, even though it's a little stiff. Oh, it should be okay. No, it's not. And I'm going to show you why. I don't know if you can see this. And even if your cord does not show this, it may still be needing replacement. Okay, but I want you to look at this closely in this light. Do you guys, I don't know if it's going to show up for you. It looks here like it almost has a little pimple there, right? It's a little distortion. Let me try to do this. I don't know if it's going to show up on the cam for you guys, but there is, in the light, a little distortion in this. It almost looks like a little pebble got caught in there. That's not a pebble, guys. That's broken rubber insulation. Now, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to bend it, and I'm not worried. I'm going to replace this, so I'm not trying to damage my own cord here. Watch. Now, I didn't hear a sound, but I felt something go snap. Okay? What went snap? The rubber coating around one or both of the wires inside of this larger jacket, it snapped. They're broken. This cord is no good. So even though you don't see, unlike at the at the plug over here where I showed you guys the outer jacket coming apart here, even though this jacket, you say, well, gosh, hey, I don't see any cracks. What's the problem? I can already see more of these little lumps. They look like little lumps. If you ever get it's like it has a rash right there. Okay, why? Because inside the rubber is cracking because it's old, even though it has a covering. And if that rubber cracks, even though you say, well, I don't see any breaks in the outer covering, that cord is no good. Okay? So be very careful when you're trying to say, well, maybe the cord will be okay. No, don't even think about it. It's easy to replace, it's not expensive, and even if it wasn't, you should not do it. Okay? Fortunately, Singers are not hard to deal with in that way. So let's take this thing's been on there a while. And we see the beautiful Singer plug receptacle. It is beautifully made, but obviously, I have a couple options. I can rewire this. Rewiring these when you have one wire is doable. If you have, some of them were set up to have two cords going in, and they can be rewired. It's a bit of a wrestling match when you're trying to get two of them in there. It's sometimes you may find it easier simply to get a reproduction. These plugs and cords are in reproduction form and have been for many years. You can get them and they're not expensive. So I would recommend that. So, okay guys, that's where we are at the moment. But I'm saving, not the best, I'm saving the worst for last. Okay. I want you to see this. I'm going to turn the machine back because I want to come around this way so you can see it from this side. So I go to look at the machine and I'm staring at it, and yes, this case, whatever this is really not going to work. I don't know what this case held, but whatever it did, it's sort of holding the machine, but not really. You can see there's a gap here and not much of a gap over here. It's a hot mess on this thing. It's being held up, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of ragtag held together. But look at that. I saw this when I went to look at the machine, and I asked the person selling, I said, so there's a wire here. Do you know what this is? He's like, no, I really don't know. I think this is a situation where sometimes the seller they're not being dishonest with you. It's more of a whistling in the dark, hoping everything's okay. I just want this out of my house. Okay. So we're not here to blame or demonize the seller. But you need to realize, why is this like this? Now, sometimes when something has bad wiring, sometimes a seller will, after they unplug it, will cut the cord, if you've heard that expression, to make sure no one can plug it in and cause problems with electrical until it's rewired. And I think that might be what this is, because look at this. I've got this cord here. Oh boy, look at that. We've got, this looks like it might have even melted. I'm going to have to zoom in because just because I can see it doesn't mean you guys can. Hold on. Okay, look at that. Okay, and again, Singer had great cords, but remember how old this? I haven't even looked the serial number up yet, but this thing is old. Okay, in fact, I would probably, I'm going to guess at this, you guys, I'll stand corrected when I look up the serial number. It's probably 1930s, the latest 40s, and we know this because it has the faceplate, or the side plate, I should say, that is this lovely, I don't know if this is scroll designed. It almost looks like a William Morris Arts and Crafts. It's lovely. But eventually, the 201s would have a fluted design that came later, the ones that were made in the 50s. So this machine is up there. Let's see, it was made in Canada. I know the motor was because it tells me right there. But it doesn't matter where it was made. The fact is, we got an old cord and we got two wires, and I see electrical tape. Now, why do I have electrical tape there? We're going to find out. Because when I bought this, I knew, when I saw this, I thought, okay, that's telling me that maybe this motor is better left not used, but someone didn't want to throw the machine away. And I'm grateful they didn't, because the machine is still salvageable by far, we hope. But this motor, not so sure, guys. Again, you want to take a flashlight with you when you are looking at vintage machines. Sometimes it's, you don't have good lighting, or maybe your vision isn't great. I don't know. In either case, you want to know what is going on with the machine before you buy it. You may still buy it. You don't have to say, no, I don't want it, but how much are you willing to pay? And to that point, how much do you think I paid? I will tell you in the next video installment, because we're going to look closely. We're going to take this motor off and we're going to see if we can figure out. I'm pretty sure this is the lead. This is the lead wire, the cord rather, that goes to the motor itself. And if it does, well, it should be wired. The Singers of this era, the motor and anything that's going, and the foot pedal, not the foot pedal. The motor is wired into this terminal. I love these terminals. And the motor is wired there. Well, if this motor is no longer wired to that terminal, someone took it out for a reason, and we should really pay attention to make sure that it's safe to use. There are workarounds, okay? If this happens to you and you're like, oh no, I always wanted a 201 and I got one and the motor's bad. No, it's okay. This machine can be salvaged. How we salvage it is a different story. So, thank you all for following me along in terms of one of my latest purchases. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And if you have not donated, please consider donating. Your donations help me scrounge up the funds to get these machines and then hopefully show them on the channel, show how I work on them for the channel. And then hopefully we can get to the bottom of what in the world is going on with this Singer 201. Thank you all for watching, and in the next video I will show you basically how to get behind the motor, and we'll try to figure out what's going on with it. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.